the solution at the other end from you is never violence. It's never, combating evil with evil. Your solutions always come back to that healing and that love.
If there was a kill 'em all button, I would push it. But the problem is you can't because they're so woven into the fabric of society. And then, you have to get into the whole understanding of the cycle of abuse.
Yeah.
So many of these abusers today, they started out as victims, as childhood victims. So at what point do we break the cycle of abuse and figure out a way to stop it? It's such a complicated thing and it's so woven into every aspect of life. There's no way that you could kill them all. That's maybe something God could do, but that's not something we as human beings can do. Um, and I think that what we can do is instead of um, kind of focusing on them, we have to kind of put up a wall, put them outside of our focus, and we have to start focusing on ourselves. How can I put myself back together? How can you put yourself back together? How can she put herself together? How can he put himself back together? And then how can we put ourselves back together as a community and having, strong boundaries and new content where there's not all the subliminal stuff, higher mind conscious material for our children, for ourselves, because it's a sadistic system that we're in. Um, and we could sit here and talk all day long just about the system itself. The pharmaceutical and medical industry makes money off of our suffering, and they keep us in suffering. That's sadism. The education system is not meant to make us smart. It's meant to make us robots that memorize and regurgitate and follow orders. That's not intelligence. Um, they dumb us down intentionally. They should be teaching children about telepathy. They should be teaching children about, higher minded consciousness. Because we're higher minded people, we're higher consciousness people. And then, you have the justice system where, good luck finding any justice there. So the whole system is sadistic. Um, the reason I don't use the word satanic, I mean, to just jump right into it, is because that's a puppet show. And I want to break down their whole system and help people understand how it's a puppet show. But they don't call themselves worshipers of Satan. You might think that they do, but they don't. They actually, the elite of the elite, the ones that are running the puppet show, they call themselves sadists. And a sadist is someone who derives pleasure and benefit from intentionally inflicting harm, pain, suffering, and humiliation. And it works, they're sorcerers, and it works on this kind of magic that they call opposite and equal reaction magic. So for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. So if they inflict pain, what they do is they're harvesting the opposite and equal reaction, which is pleasure. If they inflict humiliation, they're harvesting the opposite and equal reaction, which is prestige and honor. So, that's where all these humiliation rituals come in and all the stuff that they do. So they identify themselves as sadists. They're extremely professional. They have been doing it since time memorial. They have scientists, doctors, all kinds of professional people that are studying how to inflict the most amount of pain and humiliation on people. And they put up this whole puppet show, to the world, whether it's in the music industry, the entertainment industry, or even in, religion about this whole idea of worshiping Satan, and it's it's a puppet show. So I don't say the word satanic, but when I say sadist, it is pretty much the same thing. But because I was raised by sadists, so and in the satanic rituals when I was a child, to be very clear, after my father died, and my father never abused me. My father was an amazing man. Everything that I'm doing to honor him in his name. And I could talk about him all day long. He was a man of integrity, and people think that he was eliminated because of politics, but that really was not why. He refused to hurt children. He refused to participate in the satanic rituals, and so they eliminated him. But everything I'm doing is to honor him. So when I talk about abuse or this or that, I can't name people because then they can sue me for character defamation, and give me cease and desist order. Now, I can say I'm Bob Marley's biological daughter because I am, and my paternity was proven and it was never disputed, and everyone in my family knows exactly who I am. But the minute I say this one abused me or that one did this or that, then I can't prove that. I have no proof. They make sure you don't have any proof. Nobody walks out of there with proof. So I have to be careful what I say so that they can't shut me up. And that's another reason why I talk about sadism, because first of all, that's what it really is. That is the actual root of what's going on. And sadism is in the diagnostic book of mental disorders, the DSM. And so they can't call you crazy for saying, I'm a survivor of sadistic abuse. I survived sadism. But if you say I'm a survivor of satanic abuse, well, then all of a sudden off to the loony bin you go. You're a conspiracy theorist and you're crazy, even though it's so obvious. And they put it in your face. They used to say hidden in plain sight. Well, now it's just in plain sight. I mean, has anybody seen the Pope's funeral? You're gonna tell me that's hidden in plain sight? No, that's just in plain sight. I mean, the mask has fallen, the veil is lifted, and it's so clear everywhere you go that this is satanic ritualistic behavior. But the moment you say it, all of a sudden you're crazy, you're a conspiracy theorist. And so that's why I use the word sadism and sadist and sadistic, because you can say it and you can be validated by saying it. And that's how they refer to themselves anyway. So let's get away from the puppet show. In my book, Reclaim Your Soul, it opens up with a dictionary of words that we can use instead of, saying words that trigger people, feed the sadists, and discredit you. We have to learn how to communicate these things in a different way so that we can have a conversation without being shut down. And sadism is just everywhere. You don't have to be a survivor of SRA. The whole system is sadistic. We've all been touched and abused in one way or another. So I think everybody can relate to it. And people have been learning about narcissism over the last couple of years, which I think is fantastic because most of these people are not just narcissists, but they use the narcissistic um, patterns of behavior, and so once you are awoken to it, then you can identify it and then you can communicate it in a way that's not crazy making. Like before the narcissists were being exposed, if you tried to talk about what they were doing, people just thought you were crazy. And they do that on purpose. Whether it's the gaslighting, which is to make you question your own reality, or, the moving the goalpost and all these things that they do. So when you try to explain to someone, you just sound batshit crazy. But now that people have been educating themselves and the whole pattern of behavior has been exposed, people now know how to communicate. Well, this is what's going on. And, I'm a scapegoat and this is what happened and blah, blah, blah. And it's all according to, the cluster B personality definitions in the DSM. So you can't be discredited. So we have to do the same thing for sadism and understand that sadism and narcissism are very, very closely aligned. And usually in these sadistic elite people, they're, what you call a dark triad. They have that Machiavellianism. They have the narcissistic tendencies or behaviors, and they are what they call antisocial behavior, which is psychopathy. There's actually nothing in the book of diagnostic disorders that's called psychopathy. It falls under the cluster B personality disorder of antisocial. And it doesn't mean that you're antisocial, like I don't like to go to the movies or I don't like to go to family parties because I'm antisocial. It means against society. So there's the people that write the updated versions of this book, they're actually going to be changing a lot of these things and they're going to be coming up with something for psychopathy because it is a problem and there is a lot to be said about sadism. And when I say sadism, I'm not talking about the mature adults, mature consenting adults who put on their little costumes and have their little safe words and want to have a good time. That's not something I do, and I think it's a slippery slope, but that's not what I'm talking about. When I say sadism, I'm talking about what you consider satanic abuse. I'm talking about people that intentionally inflict harm so they can reap what they consider to be a benefit of pleasure. They're hurting innocent children. They're hurting innocent people. That's not the same as the um, the sadomasochist community of people that, you know, play around with whatever in their little dungeons where everybody's consenting and they have their cute little costumes or whatever. Like, I don't know too much about that. I don't have any like personal experience with it, but I do know that there are people that do that, and that's not what I'm talking about at all. So I don't want it to be confused.
100%. And I'm excited to dive more into this because I think you have such a good understanding of these personality types that we aren't taught about. I mean, you said it yourself, it's not even in medical text. A lot of the stuff that we know, if we're, listening to survivor testimonies and listening to stories of the type of people that are in these different cult systems. So I'm really excited to share what you've learned. But what I want people to know is that although you've learned this on your own volition through your studies and through all the healing that you've done, you also had experiences as a child, as you said, growing up around these personality types, so you've gotten to see this firsthand with this what this was like. So I wanted to share a little bit about you as a person, both the good and the bad. I know your childhood had these beautiful moments with people like your father, but then on the other hand there was so much darkness around you, so I wanted you to share just what you wanted to or what you're able to about your childhood, and we can talk about your career going into the music industry and all the accolades because you're actually very accomplished, even if your name isn't splattered all over the people
Mhm.
that you've helped. You've been around a lot of really amazing artists and people who were celebrated, and I want to share that with people too, so they can sort of understand all the different ways that your story interwove you into these circles to where then you now have that knowledge that you can share with us.
So to start out, I was born in 1970. Um, my father is Bob Marley. My paternity was proven and it was never disputed. Everyone in my family knows exactly who I am. Um, my identity was hidden originally because my mother was underaged, but it wasn't a creepy pedo thing. And I say that over and over. People want to turn it into something it's not. Um, my father was a very good man. He didn't take advantage of anybody. And the laws have since changed. If the same thing happened now, it wouldn't be considered against the law. And so, and this has been confirmed by people that knew my father that I've gotten back in touch with over the last couple of years. My father was threatened that he would go to jail for statutory, and he would, he was just trying to get his music career going. And, if you get into the story of my father, it's really actually so heartbreaking. And I can get into that. But I was living in 9 Mile for, I don't know, about 6 months, and I was staying at a nun house because the woman who pretended to be my father's wife, her name is Rita, and I can tell you where you can look from other people's testimonies, like Bunny Livingston Whaler and other people that will tell you, testify, that my father did not marry her. There's also recorded testimony from my father saying that that was not his wife and he did not marry her. And there's also testimony that he was put under an opiate spell of amnesia and given this drug scopolamine, and he didn't even remember marrying her. And there's a lot of testimony of my father saying that himself. She is recorded by many people as being a very wicked woman. And I don't think that I have to say anything negative against her. I think you can just take a look that she has $600 million in the bank and hasn't done anything to help anybody other than herself. And that is not my father's legacy. My father's legacy was not to have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank. Meanwhile, people that help build the platform upon which they make their money are still working in their 70s, or people like me that won them Grammy after Grammy after Grammy, and they made hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't have a dollar for the bus, and lived in absolute poverty most of my life, So I don't necessarily have to say anything bad about her. You can just look at what other people have to say about her. But she basically wouldn't allow me in the house, and she had manipulated my father and held it over his head that just my mere existence could put him in jail. So my father was controlled in that way. I lived in 9 Mile for some time. I did reconnect with some of my cousins and some of my uncles from Non-Mile that remember I used to share a yard. I was staying in a nun's house. My father used to come and visit me with some of his good friends and some of our relatives, and they all have acknowledged me and they remember me. And then I went to go live in New York, which is where I was actually born and raised. Um, and so I was adopted by my father's second cousin on his father's side. So the Marley name is actually, it comes from Norval Marley, my father's father, who was Jewish, because his mother was Jewish. And so the Marley family is actually white, not black, the original Marley family. So I went to go live on that side of the family, also because I have very light skin. People couldn't believe Bob had such a white baby. I did have my paternity proven when I was a small child, and people say, "Oh, that's not possible. It wasn't made available to the public until the 80s." Well, people with money can absolutely access that technology. Paternity testing came around in the 20s, in 1920, but you had to be someone of money or importance to have it done. And so, my paternity was proven. It was absolutely never disputed. There's plenty of people that remember me. And there's people from uh, 12 tribes that just even recently have come out and acknowledged me, but they have to do it very quietly because some of the people that are in my family are going around threatening people, including elders. I made some videos about it on my YouTube, not my YouTube, sorry, my Facebook. Um, they're trying to keep up this fake one love narrative and they're trying to control the resources, which is not what my father was about. But they did acknowledge that my father did have a child with a woman that was underage, and everybody in the band thought he was going to go to jail. And so that's what happened to me. Um, and the people that raised me were sadists. And it was not fun to be raised by them. And one of the things I want to talk about, I want to get into, if I go off track, I want you to remember, I want to talk about the subtle um kind of patterns of behavior that they use on people, because there's so many people out there that have been abused and they're still trying to come to terms. They don't understand it because these people are very smooth. It's like those little things where like everyone's in the room and they're all happy, and then the minute you walk in the room, the whole energy changes and they're just like, oh yeah, like they just dismiss you and act like you just ruined the vibe. Like these little things, this is the scapegoating and this is the setting the person up. The sadists know who they're going to abuse, and they start setting that person up from the beginning, so that by the time that person realizes that they were abused, they've already been slandered. They've already been have a smear campaign. They've already been set up to be crazy, so that nobody will listen to them. So I want to talk about all that, but put it aside for now. Um, so I was raised by sadists. They did not treat me nicely at all. And I endured a lot of not just like what people call SRA. That's like, for them, that's their icing on the cake. But you have everyday psychological abuse, emotional abuse, even intentionally, mentally programming your mind. I was told every single day, you're ugly, you're stupid. The woman that raised me used to beat me in my face every day. You're ugly, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're stupid. And here I am, 55 years old, washing the dishes, going, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm stupid. We have to work on these things. We have to reprogram our minds. We have to pull out all of this negative programming and these neural pathways, and we have to heal ourselves. So, the people that raised me were not good people at all. And I don't have anything nice to say about them. Um, but I did get to spend a lot of time with my father. And I was very lucky in that way. I could spend my birthdays with him. I got to travel with him, even though I wasn't with him. I was the adopted daughter of his second cousin. And so I could go all these places and people didn't know I was Bob's daughter, but I got to be with him there. I got to experience a lot of things. And my father was an amazing man. He was just absolutely amazing. He was a very deep thinker. He was a philosopher. He had the ability to open himself up to channel prophecy, but that does not make him a prophet. And when he was asked, "Are you a prophet?" He said, "Nah, man. So I also got to spend time with my Uncle Peter, Peter Tosh. He was amazing. He taught me a lot of things that I love to talk about, my experiences. So anyway, my father was basically controlled in a lot of ways, and my identity was hidden for that reason. But then I was with my father in Germany visiting him, and I have spoken to the people that were there in Germany with him. I have reconnected with a lot of people, but then the other people in my family go around and start intimidating them. And, so we have to, I don't mention names. People know who I am. But I don't jeopardize them. Like, I'm just so happy that I've reconnected with good people that I love. I'm not going to throw them under the bus to prove a point. Like on Facebook, people are actually horrible and they're just like, oh yeah, prove your bobs and da da da, and they're just so crazy white bitch. Take your you look nothing like him. I'm like, are you looking at my face though? I look nothing. Have you looked at my face? I look nothing like him.
You look
Like
exactly like him. You're like a
my
carbon copy.
my siblings used to tease me when I'd walk in the room. They go, oh, our father, he's reincarnated as a white woman. It's like, oh, I look nothing like him. Well, then you're probably looking at the kids that are not my father's and comparing me to them and saying that we look nothing alike. Because you're right, we don't, because they're not his and I am. But never mind. Um, so I got to spend a lot of time with him. I was with him in Germany when he was very, very sick, and he knew, I guess, that he was gonna die. And I was 11 years old, and I didn't really understand then everything that was going on. And he had said that he can't go to jail if he's dead, and my identity should not be hidden. He told me that he had 17 children and that all of us were a part of him and he needed all of us to come together as a whole in order for him to be truly whole. And he put his hands on my head and he was crying and whispering blessings into me and hugging me and crying, and I didn't really understand he was saying goodbye because I was young, but I get it now. When you look back on things you go, oh, okay, that's what that was. um so he also always talked to me about Jerusalem and Holy Mount Zion. I used to fall asleep on him, like my head was here and I was like laying here and he was holding me, and I would listen to his heartbeat and he would sing to me about Holy Mount Zion, and I would hear his voice through his chest, like the vibration of his voice through his chest while listening to his heartbeat. I have very beautiful, amazing memories of my father. And here I am living in Jerusalem and Mount Zion for decades. Um, he always told me that my inheritance was Jerusalem. So I didn't get any of the family money. I didn't even get any of the money that I worked for and I earned. And that's a whole nother story. I don't have good relations with my family right now. Um, but I got another inheritance. I got a spiritual inheritance, and his blood absolutely runs through my veins. I'm cut from his cloth, and I'm hoping to pick up where he left off and finish what he started.
Was your father at all aware of the darkness that was going on at the same time that he's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Sorry, finish the sentence.
No, yeah, that's pretty much what I was gonna ask. Like, seems like he had an awareness of darkness around him because he knew to say goodbye to you. He probably felt something was happening. Did he or anybody have any idea what you were going through on the other
Well,
side?
yeah, the song High Seas, Low Seas, High Tide, Low Tide, I made that up with my father. And people say, well, how can you make up a song when you're 3 years old? Because I was literally born awake. Like people say you're not supposed to have memories until you're a certain age. Bullshit. I remember being outside my body when I was created, and I remember coming into this world. Some people are just awakened souls, if you believe in such things. I am one of those people. So I do remember the earliest memories with my father. And so somebody had abused me in a not nice way, and I told my father about it. And in that song, it says, every child in this world needs protection. I'm the one that said that. I said that to my father. And so everyone in the family knows I made up this song with my father. And then he made me sing it in front of all of my siblings and in front of his mother. And actually, I don't want to get into all the details about my grandmother, but we didn't always get along. She did try to make amends to me in the end, but I was already too bitter for how I had been treated. So my father was aware. um, of what was going on to some degree, but to some degree I wasn't aware because they have this drug called scopolamine, and you guys should look it up because a lot of people are given it and they're not even aware that they've been given it. And this is the stuff that they're using in the industry. It causes absolute amnesia. It severs you from your free will so that you're a puppet. If somebody gives you this drug, whether they blow it into your face or whether they give it to you to drink, or in the different ways that they can administer it to you, you just somebody says something and you're just a blank slate and a mindless puppet, and you do that, and then you don't remember. And they give it to kids while they're sleeping. They blow it into their face, so they breathe it in, and then they wake them up and they have them in these rituals, and then they put them back to sleep, and the child doesn't even know. And then they're mixing it with witchcraft and sorcery, and they're literally binding you either inside of yourself or outside of yourself, which is this whole disassociative thing that people have. And then they put your memories, they plant them not in the subconscious mind but in the unconscious mind. So right away, and also trauma suppresses itself, especially when you're a child. You have no way to deal with it, to process it. But as you grow older, you start really realizing and feeling like something is really wrong, but you can't put your finger on it because you can't remember it. So a lot of anxiety starts, a lot of, issues, but they know who they're going to abuse. They know who they're abusing. Something that was said to me by one of the sadists that raised me was that I should always remember, that only people who are awake know who's sleeping. So they're awake because they're the ones doing it, and the rest of us are kind of stupid and sleeping, and we have no idea what's going on. So as people start to wake up, they feel something's wrong. Maybe they start to have flashes of memory, or maybe they think it's a bad dream or whatever. There's so many people out there that have actually been abused, and they know that there's something wrong, and they have some kind of intuition about dark things that they don't normally would know about it. They didn't read about it. They didn't, experience it, that they remember, but they have a connection to it. So people should look into that drug, scopolamine, and you can detox from it. It buries itself in your nervous system, in your brain. I'm still detoxing from it. So they gave that to me as a child, and I do talk about the tunnels and the inner world. And the house that I was raised up in did have access from their basement. They had, and they also had them in schools and stuff. Like there's all these videos now coming out where people are exposing the fact that there is layers to this world. I mean, it's like everywhere. You have the big military bases with these huge entrances, and they're bringing all the supplies in these huge shaft elevators that go all the way down, and all the different levels of laboratories. And there's so much evidence out there that's been proven. Also, with the Sean Combs case, they uncovered his mansion that's inside the earth. There's other people that are coming out and talking about it. So I personally try to only talk about things that have been proven. Um, because when I was younger and I didn't talk about things that were proven because it wasn't proven yet, you just automatically get labeled as crazy. And, I was absolutely labeled as crazy. I was 12 years old the first time I tried to take my life, and they used it later to say when they took my son from me, Joseph, and they tried to tell, and there's plenty of people that know this to be true. They tried to tell people that I was a crackhead, that I was a prostitute, that I have a history of mental unwellness. Meanwhile, I was meditating in ashrams. I was a vegan. I was trying so hard to clean myself and put myself back together, and a greater question is why would a 12-year-old try to take their own life? Something's going on. It's not normal for a 12-year-old to be like, fuck it, I'm out, put my soul outside. I don't need to be here. You know what I mean? So I was hospitalized the first time when I was 12 years old because I did try to take my life. And so they use that, as a foundation to if you ever come out and talk about these things, they go, well, she has a history of mental unwellness. She's, whatever, whatever. So, I think a lot of people experience that. A lot of people think they have mental illnesses, or maybe they do, they have them, but they think that it's their fault or there's something wrong with them when really they were just abused, whether it's from a narcissist or a sadist or, from wherever. And they don't realize how these people are planting stuff in your brain. when they're using you in these ceremonies, even when you're not in a ceremony, they're constantly they have a whole method. It's not random. The first thing they do is to break your ability to trust. And they have all kinds of programs and things they do to just break your trust so you can't trust anybody. Then they get you to doubt yourself, to self sabotage yourself. They know that eventually they're going to be done abusing you and they're going to throw you to the streets. And this happens to so many people. And they know that you're going to be trying to figure it out because you don't have your memories. And they put seeded programs, not random programs, seeded programs that to self-sabotage yourself, to have a low self-esteem, to make bad choices, to throw yourself away, to have highs and lows, to want to commit suicide. And they're calling demons and assigning demons to people. I personally never got demonized, but I saw people get demonized. I watched people get broken down and demonized, people in my own family, because that's what they do. So between the drugs, the mental programming, and the spiritual warfare, they torture people. People are literally tortured in their mind. And one of the things that I've noticed from, my experience of understanding it all and talking to the people that I was with, it's that there's these thoughts. Okay, so you have the mental program thoughts like I'm ugly and I'm stupid, but then you have the demons that go into people and they don't talk to that person as ha ha ha, I'm a demon and throw your life away. They start talking to the people, uh, I don't want to live, I don't want to live, I'm so unhappy, I'm this and I'm that. And the person thinks this is my voice. It's like a familiar spirit or a generational spirit or something that somebody inflicted upon them and assigned to them, and that demon will torment people. I've watched people just become completely tormented. I know three people that committed suicide because they couldn't deal with it. They could not. They also had all these memories of being abused, and they just, they get ripped to shreds. So they break your trust. They program you to hate yourself, to throw yourself away, and then they assign demons and spiritual, unclean, wicked spirits that are very real. They come for the realm of jinn, and they torment people, and so that nobody will ever believe them. If they try to come out, and if they have a memory or they have, whatever kind of experience, nobody will ever believe them. They're discredited. But for me, I have to say that the hand of God was on me. I should not have survived what I went through. And at one point, when I started to speak out about some of the abuse that I was enduring, I was sent away to a school for emotionally disturbed children. And it was a school for the children of the elite that refused to sacrifice, refused to rape. They teach them how to rape. They reward them for raping. It's disgusting what's going on. They have a whole nother education that's going on, and it's a sadistic education. And if you're a child and you're being rewarded for raping and harming people, you cannot grow up to be normal. So for the ones that could not be, that they couldn't break, that wouldn't surrender, they would send us off to these schools. And I spent 2 years in a school for the sadistic elite where we were abused and tortured beyond imagination. And one of the things that they try to do is they just try to break you in every way and inject these demonic forces in you. But the hand of God was on me, and I really do believe that that is what happened because of my own power. What am I? I don't have that kind of power. I was a child, but these demons would just burn up. They couldn't even enter me. They just couldn't turn off my light. And is it my light? Do I have such a bright light, or is it, a divine intervention by the hand of God? And I have to say, God was really with me. God really protected me.
You did. You're a
And I
walking
wouldn't, I wouldn't
miracle.
be alive. I would not be alive without God. I have a very deep faith in the Lord. And I don't talk about religion. And I mean, I can. I've studied 10 different religions, but it doesn't matter what religion you are. Even if you're an atheist, whether you call it your energy or your vibration, there is something that made you. And that something is more powerful than all of us put together. And that something is holy and pure. And if you can connect with that essence of what I call God, then that's how you heal yourself. That's how you wash yourself clean from all the filth that they injected into you. That's how you reprogram your mind.
And you are a walking example of this in every single way. And just hearing this conversation is really healing and cleansing, and it's amazing to hear how dark your childhood was and then to see where you are today. There's a lot of people out there, survivors of things similar to what you went through or different forms of abuse, and they don't know how to get to where you are. They feel like that can never happen. They're just awakening to all this horrible stuff that they went through and trying to make sense of it, and it's really amazing to see what's on the other side of that hard work, of that discovery, of facing what you went through head on and trying to make sense of it. And then again, to having that undeniable faith that you had that carried you through despite those really dark times. It's beautiful to see where you're at today, Zara.
Thank you. Well, I'm not fully put back together. I'm still working on myself. I might be working on myself for the next 10 lifetimes, but it's a process. And the most important thing when I'm dealing with people that, have been broken, whether it's by sadists or just shitty people, you don't have to be abused by a sadist. You don't have to be a victim of SRA. I mean, the whole system is sadistic. You could just have a jealous sister or a mean mother or, a horrible teacher in school or, you know what I'm saying? Or a wicked friend. We all have our trust broken. We all have places in us where we've been abused and we've been broken. And whether I'm dealing with just, the regular everyday, like Ron says, there's good and there's bad, but there's no room for evil. So in that good and bad, there are bad people. There are people who are pedophilers, but are not necessarily in the sadistic elite. You know what I mean? So whatever your abuse has been, the first thing that the step one, you have to accept that you're a victim. There's a whole brainwashing propaganda out there that I'm not going to be a victim and I'm not going to, uh, go to this whole victimhood. Well, if you deny that you were victimized, you can't recover from it. So accept that you were victimized, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just from having a bad experience with a partner. You know what I mean? If you were abused, you are a victim. And so the first step is to acknowledge your victimhood. And then from there, you don't want to stay in your victimhood, but you have to acknowledge that you were victimized. And then the second step is to say, well, I'm not what they did to me. I am not what they said about me. I'm not what they did to me. That is not me. They injected their poison into me, and that is not me. I am not what they want me to be. I'm not what they did to me, and I'm not what they say I am. And then the next step is pulling out all this stuff and planting new seeds and having, new thoughts. I'm a firm believer in positive affirmations and mantras, but doing mantras in a language that you understand. You shouldn't be chanting mantras. You don't know what you're saying. You're open up energies and you don't know what you're calling in. So for me, I actually had a business for a while called Aspects Consulting, and I was teaching people all of these different things, like, 30 years ago. And what you have to do is you have to identify where you're broken and what the bad programming is, because everybody could have something different. So for me, it was I was ugly and I was stupid. So you first have to say, no, I'm not. And that was somebody else injecting something into me. So you rip it out. And then in that spot, in that place, in those, whether it's the neural pathways or in your soul and your spirit, you have to put the opposite. So I say, I'm beautiful and I'm intelligent and I'm kind. So my mantra, my positive affirmations was, I'm beautiful, I'm intelligent, I'm kind. I'm beautiful, I'm intelligent, I'm kind. I'm beautiful, I'm intelligent, I'm kind. Over and over and over. And that's how you reprogram your mind. And then there's people out there like, that are really into the fine tuning of it all, like Dr. Joe Dispenza. We say Dispensia, but I guess you guys say it Dispenza or something. Dr. Joe, look him up. He has really good information about regenerating yourself and the power of your reprogramming your mind. It's on a molecular structure, and I do a lot of work with that and deep meditation and self-awareness, stuff like that. And then you have your energetic body, because you're made up of different parts. You have your mental world, which has its own identity and body. You have your emotional realm, which has its own emotional body. You have your spiritual body. You have your physical body. Then you have the map of your soul, which carries lifetimes of experience and stuff like that. So you have to kind of figure out who you are. You have to get to know yourself. And there's all different levels. You have to heal your mind. You have to heal your heart. You have to learn how to trust again. And believe me, that's the hardest. That is the absolute, I don't know if I'll ever truly trust people. I mean, I have some of the most amazing people in my life that I do trust. I've developed, decades long relationships with really good people. I am so blessed. But trust takes time. Trust, it has to be built. And when you've been broken, you just question everything. Like they have these things where, the good cop, bad cop, they have, you're being abused, especially in some of these ceremonies or some of these inner world activities, or even in the outer world, but in the inner world, they'll have somebody abusing you, and then you'll have like the good person come and act like they're saving you. Oh my God, this is terrible, and I'm going to save you, and they save you, and then they act like they're going to save you and comfort you, and then they turn out to be even a more wicked abuser, and they do that specifically just to break your trust. You can't trust anybody. You know what I mean? And the children of the sadistic elite, they'll become your friends, and you'll think, wow, I have a really good friend. And the next thing you know, they've been lying about you, slandering you, uh, everything that they're doing to you, they say that you're the one doing to them. They flip the script, and so it's like, and how can you trust? I thought you were my friend. Like, why would you make up such serious lies? Like, and then there's the people that if you have really powerful families like I did, they would literally pay people to lie about me. So, even now, there's some people in my family that go around and try to intimidate anybody that stands up for me, the elders that remember me, and people that just really want to see me uh, be successful in what I'm trying to do with the charities I'm setting up for the people. And they said, "Oh, she's a mad woman. She's a mad woman. She's crazy." Well, I can pass a psychological, not a psychological test, but I can pass a psychological evaluation that's, let's say, 3 months long with, three meetings a week, because you can't really like have a really solid psychological evaluation in a couple hours. And I've said to everyone in my family, well, let's all have psychological evaluations, because I know a lot of you have already been diagnosed as cluster B personality disorder people and other issues. And so you can say I'm a mad woman. Maybe that would have worked back in the 80s, but now, people are aware, people are waking up, and if we have the right language and we learn how to express what happened to us in a professional language where we can't be discredited, we can't just be called crazy anymore. We have to learn how to express what our experience is without the highs and the lows and the crazy talk and the language and all this stuff, and that's how we win. So there's people that tried to discredit me. I also was threatened and had bad things happen to me, like everybody has, that really tries to come out. And to this day, I get threatened. I get threatened all the time. People threaten they're going to kill me. They're going to do this. And I'm like, would you like my live location, bitch? Because here I am. Here's my live location. You want to do something? Do something. I'm not afraid of you. God is going to take me when he wants me. And if I've gotten through all of this, I'm not afraid of your little bitch ass. Sorry. That's how I roll. But, like, they do, and there are people that really get their lives taken and they get hurt. And I think that we should probably all have a moment of silence for that poor girl, Virginia, that just got, just lost her life the other day. Like, I didn't really know about her or know her story, but Ron and Beverly and Sean and my friend Erica and Nadia, they all told me. And I just, it's just heartbreaking to hear that someone who was so brave to come forward and speak the truth, to have gone through so much suffering and then to end in such a horrible way. We have to hold a space in our heart for them. We have to have a moment of silence for these people. We have to light a candle. We have to pray for their soul, because we're in this together, whether we like it or not. Even if we don't know one another, we're all a part of the puzzle, and I just, my heart is really broken. I don't know her, but I just feel really sad about it, and it's okay to be sad. It's okay to say, I mourn somebody. I'm in grief. I'm grieving someone. I don't have to be, super strong all the time. I don't have to be the warrior all the time. I can put my shield down and weep and just express my emotions without being crazy. We're human beings. We're supposed to feel emotion. We're not psychopaths. You know what I mean? So like they'll try to take your emotions and use them against you. So you have to learn how to regulate your emotions. You have to learn how to express your emotions and find the right words for it so that they can't label you and discredit you anymore.
100%. And you see how embedded this is from such a young age, even in your own story, where you see you battling what Virginia did at age 12, those feelings of, I don't want to be here, I want to take my life. And you hear this over and over and over again with these abuse victims that they start you so young with breaking you down, like you said. And I wanted to ask, when did your victimization and abuse start? What age about
The
in
moment the woman who adopted me picked me up,
your life? Ugh,
that's when it started. And I actually have a memory of exactly what she did to me.
it's horrific. And how did that kind of follow you and impact you throughout your childhood?
Well, I mean, it was difficult. Um, you know, it's like everything is different layers. So on one hand, I had all these horrible experiences, but on the other hand, I had all this love and attention from my father. And I wasn't raised up in my father's house. So he never had to discipline me, never had to tell me to do my homework, never had to, you know what I'm saying? So whenever I saw him, it was always a good time, a happy time, a holiday, a birthday, a concert, it was always a special occasion. So I did get a lot of love from him, from my Uncle Peter, from other people. I got to meet Ross Plano a couple times. And so I have people that really wove goodness into me. Um, so I think that what I kind of did, how I survived my childhood, was just almost living in a bubble. Just I was very creative. I was writing songs from the time I was a child. Um, I was the family's songwriter. I was my father's little songbird, and I wrote all these children's books, from the time I was a teenager. And I think I just kind of created a perfect world where no harm is done. And I just kind of lived in that bubble. I became a hippie. I was working for the Grateful Dead. I designed the recycling program for them when in the 80s, when recycling was new law. Um, I was blazing the trail. Like an example, how it all started was Nassau Coliseum, which is in New York. Um, it's a big stadium. So in New York is a law that you have to recycle, but Nassau Coliseum, which is in New York, wasn't recycling. So I was working with Dennis McNally from the Grateful Dead. He was their publicist, and I knew the band, and so um, I wrote up a whole proposal. They got it lobbied through the Manhattan Group, and we got 12 major venues all across America to put up the very first recycling bins in the parking lots, not just for the Grateful Dead, but for all the venues. So I was living out of a blue Volkswagen bus, and I was going to rainbow gatherings, and I was meditating in ashrams all over the country, and I was, staying in state parks, and I was homeless, and so I had this whole experience of nature and healing through psychedelics. I'm 100% supportive of responsible use of psychedelics for psychic surgery, for healing. Um, Here in this country, they have a program where they've been studying the psychedelic mushrooms and for the healing of trauma. And there's the twin brothers, Michal and Osher. They were the ones that founded the Mushroom Project, which is the healing of trauma through the use of natural psychedelics, music, meditation, and dance. And they're the ones that put on the Nova Festival. And my daughter used to stay with them. They really helped my daughter. And they were murdered at the Nova Festival on October 7th. So we're still dealing with a lot of loss. Um, It's really difficult. So, but I've been involved with healing using psychedelics and meditation and all of that stuff. So I had a lot of that experience. I kind of separated myself when I kind of got free. I was in this school for 2 years, and that was the just most brutal thing ever. It's a place where they put the children that don't submit, that refuse to participate, in the sadism. And so they send us away and they torture the fuck out of us and they hurt us in every way. And I know three people that committed suicide. They just couldn't live with the memories of what happened to them. They just would rather not be here anymore. And so, it's heartbreaking and it's very real. And, people are out there just broken, just completely broken with nowhere to turn. There's no psychologists that know how to deal with sadistic abuse. You're automatically labeled crazy. There's judges and doctors and lawyers and police authorities and FBI, and they're all in on it. The sadistic elite has woven themselves. They're your librarian, your school teacher, your bus driver. They're everywhere. And so, how do you get the help that you need? That's why we have to start figuring out a way that we can talk about what happened to us without feeding the sadists. See, they love to hear, uh, you know, if I was to start telling you what they did to me, oh, they're, pleasuring themselves getting off on it. They love to hear our confusion. They love to hear that we're broken. They love to hear all of this stuff. So we have to develop a language, and I haven't done very good today, but develop a way to communicate without showing emotion. I feel like very emotional in this interview. Your introduction was, I was not expecting that. That just cracked my shell right open. So I am a little bit emotional, but it's okay to be emotional. We're supposed to be emotional. We just have to figure out how to express our emotions in a healthy way, in a balanced way. We have to regulate our emotions. One of the things that they do is to get you to be unregulated, with all of these games and all this, sadistic nonsense and all of this gaslighting. They rip you to shreds. They bring you up to these highs and they smash you down to these lows until you just cannot regulate yourself. That's why so many people just look absolutely out of their mind, and they're not. They've just been abused and not given the love and support that they need. So for those of us that have survived and know that we were a part of it and have the memories, you're not going to find very much help in the psychiatric world. I mean, I don't think there's psychiatrists that are trained to really deal with this. Maybe there's some that know how to deal with trauma, but someone that hasn't been through it can't help somebody that's been through it in the way that that person needs to be helped. I'm not saying that they can't be helpful, and I'm not saying don't go to a psychiatrist. I'm just saying that if you really have been sadistically abused, um, you need someone that understands what that feels like to really help you. And that's why we have to be there for one another because, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of psychiatrists are actually narcissists. And so we have to develop a language that doesn't feed them. We have to remove the power from them. We have to remove the source upon which they feed. Like, I'm sorry if I'm dominating the whole conversation. I said, oh, I like a dialogue, and here I'm going on and on. But there's two kinds of people in the world. Okay, listen up. You have the people that are self-sustaining people, like me. Okay, I have my own source. I don't pull energy from other people. I'm not vampiring anyone for their energy. I'm not trying to play with their emotions to get an emotional response so I can feed myself. I'm a self-sustained individual. I deal with my own energy, whether I'm up or down or wherever. I'm a self-sustained person. And then you have the people that are what we call empty core beings. They don't have the ability to sustain themselves. They're empty inside. So they're constantly messing with you and trying to get emotions from you, and they're feeding off of you. And even if you don't realize it, you have these people that we identify that are basically vampires. You're always exhausted when you're around them, and they're just sucking the life and the energy out of you. And so they don't have that root inside of themselves where they're nurturing themselves and they're sustaining themselves energetically. And it's a big part of the healing process. And when I was a child, I was very gullible. I was very naive. I was this free hippie spirit. I was meditating in ashrams. My family, Stephen would come over every Sunday when we were living in New York, and I would be writing all his music for him, and we'd be making up all this music together. And, when I signed contract, he even gave me checks from Tough Gong, $25,000 just for the song Hey Baby alone. I had no place to put it. The people I was living with were exploiting me. They made so much money off of me. I never got a penny of it. I didn't even know. There were times they would say, hey, do you want to come and help these people with their rhymes and their words and teach them poetry, bless up the youth? And I'd be like, of course. And then I found out they were charging this person like $10,000, $12,000. And I thought I was just there to help people. So I was exploited. I was taken advantage of. And so I had no place to put the money. I gave it back to Steven. I said, hold on to it for me, and all the money that you're making for me, hold on to it for me. The day will come when I'll need it and I'll ask you for it. And he was like, of course. Well, that day came and I asked him for it, and he doesn't know how to answer his phone. All of a sudden, he didn't know who the fuck I am, and walked off with millions of dollars of my money and left me in poverty without a care in the world. So never again will I do something and not take immediate credit for it. And a perfect example of that is the Wu-Tang Clan logo. I drew that logo, and everybody in the Wu-Tang Clan knows I drew that logo. There's no mystery about who drew that fucking logo. I drew it, but I couldn't take credit for it because Rita had me so convinced that I was doing the right thing by continuing to hide my identity because so my identity was hidden when I was a child because my mother was underage, right? So then after my father died, he said that he can't go to jail if he's dead. My identity shouldn't be hidden. And then, I was young. I didn't, know what was an identity. My identity wasn't hidden in the family. I spent a lot of time with my siblings. But then when it came to the point that I became a young teenager, they convinced me to go along with this whole identity game and to say that I'm not Bob's because if anybody knew that I was Bob's daughter, then they would want to know who my mother is, and then right away they would figure out that she was underage, and then nobody would buy their music. The Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers wouldn't be able to make more music, and even though I wrote their Tomorrow People won them their first Grammy, you know they're going out eating in restaurants while I was literally looking in garbage for food and homeless, but whatever. God will sort out their soul. So, what had happened was I designed the Wu-Tang Clan logo, but I couldn't take credit for it because Rita had me so twisted up that I was the hero of the family, hiding my identity. And so, Maurice, who was a part of the Wu-Tang Clan, he drew the severed head on his mathematics book, the paper cover, and they were going to use it as a logo, but the RZA was like, no, we need something that's like, a symbol that's easily reproduced so we can make merchandise, shirts, hats, whatever. And so I was with them in the streets before they became the Wu-Tang Clan. And, so I was always drawing stuff and they were like, Ruhawk, that's my name came from them kind of. They were like, can you draw us something? I was like, yeah, sure. They were still up in the studio recording their first stuff. So I drew the Wu-Tang logo. We made a couple adjustments to it. But I couldn't take credit for it. They knew that I was Bob Marley's daughter. I never told them, but the whole nother story how they found out. Not necessarily a positive story, but so Maurice did not draw it, and he did not want to take credit for it either. He was like, no, I don't want to take credit for it. I didn't do it. And I was like, I know, but I can't take credit for it. I told him, please just, help a sister out, you know, take credit for it because I can't take credit for it. And so now, where I'm at today, if I do something, oh, you better believe I'm taking credit for it. And now I'm taking credit for all the stuff that I gave away because I was manipulated into saying, oh, I have to hide my identity to protect the family. They don't give a fuck about me. They know that I have teeth that I need oral surgery. They used to drill into my teeth without Novocaine. It was a part of the torture. My teeth are so messed up. They hollowed out my teeth, filled them up with mercury. I have the worst teeth in the world. I'm in pain every single day with my teeth. They know this. They have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank that I made for them, and they won't even help me or my son, who was attacked by the police, and he also has messed up teeth. He needs oral surgery. They won't even give us, the smallest piece of charity. So meanwhile, I'm throwing myself away to be the hero and the defender of the family, and they couldn't care less about me. They couldn't care. So never again will I ever be this naive and think that, because somebody smiles in my face, that they actually care about me. So whatever I do now, I take credit for it. And all the things that I did that I didn't take credit for, I'm taking credit for it now. And if people want to take me to court, they can take me to court. I've said that before. People say, oh, they're going to sue you. They're going to sue you. Yes, please bring it on because I can prove I'm Bob's and I can prove you're not. And I don't want to fight with my family. They don't want to do the right thing by me. God will sort out their soul. I'm moving forward without them. I wanted to help them. I wanted to pull them through with me into this new era that we're all entering. Our consciousness is raising. The sadists are getting exposed. We're breaking the chains that bind us to these lower vibrations. I wanted nothing more than to save the people in my family that I saw got abused. I saw children turn into abusers, and not because they wanted to. And I think that children that were abused, that got looped into the system, the sadistic system, I think that they absolutely have to have some kind of special circumstances and some kind of help. And I'm not saying that they should get away with bad things that they've done. Like Sean Combs did some really bad things, and he has to be held accountable for that. But when I met Sean, he literally summoned me up to Harlem. I was hanging out at the Firehouse Studio with the Wu-Tang Clan, and he had heard that I was Bob's daughter and that I had went through all this horrible abuse and that I had kind of gotten out of it and survived it. And so he wanted to know if he could ever have a normal life. And so he summoned me up to Harlem. He had his thugs with the boop boop thing, whatever, the checker to see if I had any weapons on me. And we stood in a vacant lot with his people all around. And he was like, "Yo, Ruhawk." He was like, like, just like bearing his soul to me. He was like, "I don't even, can I ever get out of this?" He says, when I was 4 years old, he told me when he was 4 years old, he was used as a living altar. And I know exactly what that means. That's the most horrible thing anybody in this world could ever go through, especially a child. He wanted to know, what does it mean to have a soul? How do I know if I have a soul? Like, he was desperate for help, but he didn't make the right choices, and he has to be held accountable for the choices he made. But at the same time, we have to recognize that he was a child victim. And even if he dies in prison behind prison bars, there should be some kind of help for people that were victimized as children that want to reclaim their soul. They want to put themselves back together. They want to escape the sadistic system. If we're going to move forward, we can't leave the childhood victims behind because it's not fair. Because they're drugged into it, they're looped into it, they're videotaped, and then they're controlled. All of these people that you see, whether they're in the music industry or whether they're in the entertainment industry, they've all been drugged, they've all been manipulated, they've all been coerced, and then they've all been videotaped, and they're all owned and controlled. And you can see it. You don't need me to tell you about it. You can see how they all start out so cute and so pretty and so innocent and so young. They just want to buy a house for their mother, and then they end up doing the most demonic stuff in front of the whole world. Like, how did that happen? So until we figure out how to start making some kind of society where we have educated, professional, trained, stable individuals that know how to deal with people that are coming from this sadistic world and this sadistic abuse, that we can help them, teach them how to put themselves back together and heal from it. We have to break the cycle. If we don't break the cycle, we're going to keep staying in it. And so Sean was like, at one point I have to tell you the truth, he was even crying out. I was explaining to him, well, if you really want to get out of it, you have to stop. You have to repent. You have to feel sorry for the harm that you did. You have to, you have to understand how you were manipulated, where the lies are. You have to recognize the lies. The first lie is that you can sell your soul to begin with. Like, hello, the soul belongs to God. It can neither be bought nor sold. Wake up. You've been lied to. You can't sell your soul. So you have to realize that you've been lied to and manipulated. You have to understand the system and how these people work. You have to develop a language where you can express yourself so that you're not considered to be crazy. And then you have to figure out how to put yourself back together. And then you have to find other people that have put themselves back together. We have to start creating sadistic free content for our children because all the stuff that's out there is totally demonic. I mean, I don't have TV. I haven't had TV this whole time I've been in this country. I've never once had a TV. I've lived off grid for years at a time, no running water, no electricity, no nothing. And so I'm not plugged in. But when I do plug in, it's like, oh my God, how do you not see how completely sadistic and damaging that is for children? So we have to create new content for children that's going to help them grow their brain and understand that they're beings of higher consciousness. Things like telepathy are absolutely normal. We've been cut off and disconnected from who we really are. We have to put ourselves back together as an individual. We have to do the work. Nobody can do that work for me. I can't, there's no magic pill for me to take. I have to just suck it up and realize I was abused. It sucked. They put so much garbage in me. And even though it's not my garbage, I'm responsible for myself. So I'm responsible to take that garbage out and to clean myself. And for me, I have a connection to the divine spark within my soul. That's my connection to God. And I open that up and I just let it fill every molecule of my existence and I let it wash me clean and constantly just letting it flow through every molecule of my existence. And I just keep cleaning myself. And I use the Tibetan singing bowls, which are amazing, and they help you get all of the other energies, all the static energies, all the, whatever it is that clings to you, whether you have generational curses on you and spirits on you, or you just are an empath and you go to the supermarket and you're like filled up with everybody's garbage. However it got there, you could have a jealous neighbor that's throwing evil eyes on you. However, other people's energy got to you, you have to figure out how to get rid of it. The Tibetan singing bowls are amazing because it brings you back to your vibration. It cleans out all the energy that's not yours. So there's all these different healing techniques, and these are some of the things that we're talking about at the Women's Warrior Table, different healing techniques. Recipes for food that don't have aborted fetus cells in them, which I don't know if you know about what's going on with that, all the garbage that the poisons and the stuff that they're putting in us. And to create content, I have like 32 children's books that I wrote when I was a teenager. There's no subliminals, no harmful content for children. We just have to, all of us are a piece of the puzzle. Something my father said, one man can't fix what a million men broke. Nothing's getting fixed because everybody's waiting for one man to come along and do it. And nobody can do it. If my father couldn't do it, and Gandhi couldn't do it, and Martin Luther King couldn't do it, it can't be done by one person. It takes all of us together. We all have to put ourselves back together, whether you just had a mean sister or you're a survivor of ritualistic abuse, wherever you fall out. We've all been abused in this system. We all have something to do to put ourselves back together. We have to figure out what are our gifts, what are our contributions, put ourselves back together, recognize I'm just a piece of the puzzle and we all have something to contribute, something to say, something to build. We have to build our foundation off of truth. We have to put our pieces of the puzzle together and we have to create a whole new society. And even if it's not a society where we're all living in the same place, like for the Women's Warrior Table, we're taking people from all over the world, come and sit at our table. What do you have to bring to the table? And everyone has something to share. So we get educated, we learn something that we didn't know, or we, get reminded of something that we're already doing. And then we share with them what we have to offer, and they go back to their community, and everyone has to take responsibility for their self, their family, their community, and together we will rise up out of the ashes of this whole sadistic system. And that's the only way out that I can see.